Welcome to Birdseeds. As always, thank you so much for listening. So today we're going to talk about a book that I read. So went up to Rhode Island for my son's ice hockey tournament over the weekend. Had a fantastic weekend with him and his team, and loved Rhode Island. Newport was just amazing town. If you've never been to Newport, you gotta go. Go check out the cliff walk, where you can walk on the cliff where all the big giant mansions are. There's a Vanderbilt mansion there. We didn't have time to do the tours, but I hear they're quite amazing. And there's a beach area. Crazy kids went swimming in 61-degree water, but that's kids for you. And then there's the wharf area, which is like, if you're familiar with Annapolis, Maryland, and you're familiar with Nashville, put the two together. It was just a great time, great food, lobster rolls, whole belly fried clams. Definitely fatted out while I was there and loved every minute of it. So the book that I was recommended to listen to, and I pretty much just listened to it, scarfed it up the entire trip. It's by Jennifer Shannon. Don't Feed the Monkey Mind: How to Stop the Cycle of Anxiety, Fear, and Worry. So I'm going to do a little quick book review on it. Generally speaking, I got a lot out of the book. I thought it was great. It read pretty quick and easy, which I am a fan of, especially for these kind of, almost technical kind of books. It was a perfect blend of the science behind it and the emotions behind the sort of the mind-body connection, which we all know that I'm all about. I think there's a ton there. I think there's a ton we don't know there. Love it. So it was a really great connection on that, which I appreciated. There were some aspects of the book we'll get into I didn't think were awesome, at least for me personally, but all in all, it was a really good book. So basically the book, and stop listening if you haven't and you're going to read it. It's not a suspense book, so probably there's no spoiler alert or whatever you want to call it. But essentially, the book talks about the monkey mind. If you're not familiar with that term, it's kind of a Buddhist term. The monkey mind is that anxiety. It's the sort of uncontrolled voices, reactions, physical reactions we do as part of the fight and flight response, fight or flight. So the book goes in to talk about the amygdala. So the amygdala is part of your brain, and its job is to alert you to danger. So obviously for evolutionary purposes, it's been there to say, oh, fire hot, fire bad, or, bear, dangerous, lion, dangerous, so on and so forth. So it's what gives you that alert. It's the thing that puts you into that fight or flight response where you are going to avoid the danger. Well, there's a couple things that have gone over through the years. One, we don't have as much true threat as we did when we lived in caves or wherever. So it's overactive because it's trying to find danger. Another part about it, and this is kind of what reasons with me really well, ironically, to use that word, because it has no reason. It doesn't, you can't negotiate with it. You can't say, oh, man, it's really not that dangerous. And it's funny that the monkey mind's been used, and then it relates in this book. It's like every time your amygdala goes off to say, hey, there's traffic ahead, slam on your brakes, right? Every time you do it, every time you pay attention to it, every time you give into it, every time you do anything to sort of quiet it down, whether that's avoidance or whatever, things you do there, then you're basically rewarding it. You're giving it a banana in the book and saying like, hey, thank you so much for alerting me to this. Keep doing it. So what's the alternative? And again, when it's a true threat, you're walking down the road and there's a truck running crazy, and she uses this analogy in the book, a truck's running crazy, and you jump out of the way. That's your amygdala saving your life, because your amygdala said there's a threat, fight or flight. Flight, you're going to move out of the way, because try to fight a truck flying at you, you're going to lose that fight. You're going to flight, you're going to move out of the way. Your amygdala just saved your life. It should be rewarded for that, and it is rewarded for that when you go, oh gosh, that was close. The problem is, the next time you go walk down that street, your amygdala says, hey, last time we were here, there was danger. Do something. Anytime you do anything, you've rewarded it, saying, hey, thank you again for letting me know you saved my life. Appreciate you. Here's a banana. And that's where the challenge comes in. That's how we wind up evolutionary with an overactive amygdala, with too much fight or flight response for items that are not fight or flight. But it doesn't reason, it doesn't understand, it doesn't know. All it knows is that it warned you and it saved you, and therefore it's going to keep doing it. So logically, you would say, "Oh, well, let's ignore this. Let's just tell it to shut up and go away." And whether that's numbing ourselves with medication or substances or whatever it might be, or whatever you may do, but you're actually still feeding it in that case, and that's where it's illogical in my mind, from what you would think is logical, where it doesn't work that way. Where you're basically saying, "Yes, I'm hiding from this now because you were right and I can't handle it. So you need to warn me more because obviously I can't handle it." And there's no negotiating with it. There's no reasoning with it. It's going to do what it's going to do. So the book then goes into how do you stop it? And the way to stop it is you basically just have to take a deep breath, thank it for doing its job, and don't pay any attention to it. Don't move towards it. Don't move away from it. Just basically give it no reward, no response whatsoever. I think from me personally, in the sort of the mind-body connection, I think it makes sense. Of course, I believe in deep breath, right? I believe that 100% that we can control our bodies, we can control our minds with our breath. Our breath is the single calming force that we have. And I like the idea of, it's logical, doesn't make sense, but as she points out, you've been doing it the other way forever and it's not working. I like the idea of going, thank you for letting me know. I'm good. I didn't need to be warned, I'm good. But where it gets a little like into the sort of fluff for me, and again, I've got a lot out of the book. All in all, glad I read it. I got a lot out of it, got a lot of nuggets. But it gets a little bit out of the ordinary where it's like, ask it for more. So what it says, take a deep breath, feel in your body where that anxiety is, where that fear is, and breathe into that. And then ask it for more of that sensation. I'm not sure that that's really, personally, that's super productive. Maybe it is. I'm going to try it. I'll report back if I get a lot out of it. I'm just not totally sure that made a lot of sense. The other thing that really kind of took me off on the book, so I'm going to build up to get there. She gives four characters in their story and whatever they're suffering from, where they have too much of this, and it's some OCD stuff, it's a lot of fear, it's all those kind of things. So one person is a hypochondriac and checks Dr. Google all the time and looks for everything potentially wrong with them. Another person has no confidence, they're an overworker, they're afraid of failure, they've hired a friend's wife and they're not sure what they're going to, like, it's not working out, they're freaking out about what to do, and they wind up in this, action of not doing anything at all because they're avoiding it. So it's an avoidance mindset, and it's using work as a way to hide from insecurities. Another person has an alcoholic son, and they're constantly checking on them to the point that they're detrimental to their own life and moving forward. So those are some of the characters that go in here in the book, and they're great. All relatable stories. It's kind of funny. The book sets it up like, well, one of these probably speaks to you. Well, they all speak to me, which is kind of funny. And as the book goes on, the advice that the author, who is a therapist, gives to these people is basically set a limit and stop doing it. So to the person that's checking on her son too often, you're allowed to check on your son once a day. To the person that's the hypochondriac that's constantly Googling everything, it's like, look, the day you have the symptom onset, you can't Google it, you can't talk about it, you can't do anything about it. If it persists the next day, then you can do it. And you can't talk to your husband about it because it just sort of spirals out from there. The person that has the coworker or the employee that's the wife of a good friend basically breaks down the decision-making process into 4 different decisions, and one of them stands true as the best decision, which is to go direct to the employee and tell them what they're doing wrong and give them a warning. So the book sets it up so they all do this, and to various levels of success, you're not going to do everything. It's not going to be perfect. It's not, and I like that it's very real, and that it talked about the struggles that they had going through the process, but they were moving in the right direction. That's great. And then it goes, yeah, but the son did wind up in the hospital, and the person did have to fire the best friend's wife, and that affected their friendship. And the hypochondriac did get sick with a chronic illness. This is where the book went off for me. I appreciate the transparency and the honesty in it because I think that's important. But it kind of reaffirmed in my mind, no, those were legit worries that those people had. That was the amygdala legit notifying them of a problem. Did it benefit them to harp on it? No. No, it didn't. But they were legit problems, and they came true anyway. That kind of took me off the book a little bit. I wish it was a little bit different ending than that, but it is what it is. So my take on this whole scenario is, yes, we have overactive amygdalas through our, evolvement. Is that harmful? Yes. Are we put into fight or flight way too often for items that are not fight or flight? Absolutely. I think I might be the classic case for that. Road rage is being the perfect example of it. Like, that person's stopping in front of you. Yeah, there's some danger to it. Sure. Thank you for alerting me. I need to hit the brakes and not run into them. I take it personally. I let it sort of hijack me. That's the problem. It's the hijacking. And she talks about the hijacking in the book. That's the problem. When it hijacks you and it takes over, that's a problem. But I believe in flexibility, and something as part of cognitive behavioral therapy in the modern ways that it talks about flexibility, not setting these hard rules. I didn't appreciate the part of like, no, you can't call more than once a day. No, you can't Google that. Did it cause those problems? No, they were probably going to happen anyway. But I don't think it helped. I just, that to me is not it. I think there's got to be another way through more flexibility and not just hard and fast rules to work on not letting that stuff hijack you. That's what I'm going to be working through. So first is, and all this stuff in mental health and working on your mental health, the first thing is being aware of when it's happening, which really starts with being aware after it happened. So you get hijacked or whatever happens, when you're looking back on it, having non-judgmental awareness. The non-judgmental part is the hardest part because we do, especially people like me, we hold ourselves to very high standards. So when we look back at the way something went down, the non-judgmental part is extremely hard. But it starts with being retroactively aware, pushing that forward to being aware when it's happening. Then it's controlling it when it's happening and not letting it hijack you. And then it's reducing the frequency in which it happens. And then it's allowing it to happen when it's really important. That to me is the journey here. I am at this journey of myself where I started being aware retroactively. I'm now aware of when it's happening. And I'm in that process of being able to control when it's happening. Am I where I want to be with it? No. But is it happening? Yes. I'm not letting myself get hijacked with anger, which is stemming from fear, nearly as often as I was. Proud of that. I will continue down that journey. This book gave me a lot of really good tidbits. And again, I like the science behind it. It helps me understand it better. A lot of really good tidbits in that. There were just some things that I didn't totally agree with. Have you read this book? I would love to hear your feedback on it. I'd love to hear if you might totally disagree with me and say, no, that was the best part of it. Cool. We're all on our own journeys. That's great. I just wanted to share this book with you. There was a lot of really good in it. Thank you for listening. Birdseeds with Joe Bird. Have a wonderful day.